I gained 25 pounds, and my girlfriend didn't even notice. The crab legs came first. Claire stacked them 6 inches high on her second plate before I'd even sat down properly. Then the lobster tail, glistening under the heat lamps, a ladle of clam chowder. 3 slices of prime rib, bleeding pink at the edges. She moved through the Golden Harbor buffet on Route 9 like she was shopping, not eating, methodical, deliberate, unhurried. I watched her survey the pasta station from across the room and felt the familiar tightening in my gut. Not hunger, something closer to dread. She settled back into her seat across from me, adjusted the plates, rearranged a few things. Then she picked up a single oyster on a half shell, tipped it into her mouth, chewed twice, set the shell down, and slid the entire arrangement, crab legs, lobster, prime rib, chowder, pasta, all of it across the table toward me, saving room for dessert. I stared at it. 2 years of that exact moment played through my head in about 4 seconds. The weight behind my sternum, the smell of seafood I hadn't wanted, the way she'd look back at her phone before I'd even picked up the fork. "I'm not eating that," I said. She laughed, not a mean laugh, the kind that assumes it's talking to a child. "Come on, we can't waste all of this. You should have thought about that before taking it." Her face changed fast, the smile dropped, something harder came up underneath it. And before I could say another word, a staff member materialized at our table and explained, very politely, that excessive plate waste would result in an additional charge of $32. Claire looked at the food, then at me. Then she pointed. "He usually finishes everything, he's just being difficult today." The server looked at me. I shrugged. "I'm not hungry." I should tell you who I was before Claire, before Golden Harbor and the Brazilian place and the endless rotation of all-you-can-eat everything. I was 28 years old when we met. I'm 31 now. Back then, I weighed 183, ran 3 miles on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, kept a fridge stocked with things I'd actually cooked. I worked as a project coordinator for a mid-sized logistics firm in Columbus, Ohio. Not glamorous, decent salary, comfortable enough that I could afford to say yes to things without checking my account first. Claire was 26. We met at a birthday party for my coworker Dennis in the spring of 2021. She was Dennis's girlfriend's college roommate, visiting for the weekend. She was funny, immediately. The kind of funny that makes a room tilt toward you. She laughed at everything, including herself, and she had this habit of making eye contact when she spoke, not the predatory kind, the kind that made you feel heard. I asked for her number before the party ended. She gave it to me before I finished asking. The first 3 months were easy. We did what people do. Coffee, movies, long drives with no destination. She was enthusiastic about food, not in the way that mattered, it turned out, but in the way that looked like it mattered. She wanted to try every new restaurant. She had opinions about menus. She talked about cuisine with genuine excitement, and I assumed that meant she was someone who actually engaged with it, eating, choosing, experiencing. I didn't understand yet that, for Claire, food was a kind of theater, the performance of appetite without its substance. The buffet thing started small. She suggested Golden Harbor, maybe a month and a half in, said she'd been going there since college, loved the variety. We went on a Saturday. She loaded 2 plates. Ate maybe a third of the food on them, looked at me. "We can't let it go to waste, right?" I laughed, helped her finish, didn't think anything of it. We went back the next Saturday. Same thing. The third time, I remember thinking, but I pushed it down. It felt too small to mention, and I liked her. I didn't want to be the guy who turned a buffet into a conflict. So I kept eating. There's a specific incident I think about when I trace the shape of those 2 years. It was around month 5, October 2021. We went to a new seafood place on the east side of Columbus, not a buffet, just a regular restaurant. Claire ordered the crab cake appetizer, the lobster bisque, the full crab cluster entree, and a side of truffle fries. She ate the bisque. She ate 2 of the 4 crab cakes. She ate 1 leg off the cluster and half the fries. The check came. She looked at the remaining food, then at me. "I feel so bad about all this waste. Should we get boxes?" We got boxes. I ate the leftovers for 2 days. Said nothing. At the time, I thought, this is just how she is with food. Now I understand something different. That night was a preview, a smaller version of the same dynamic, in a different setting. Claire ordered what sounded exciting. Then the reality of finishing it became my problem. My calories, my body, my waistband. By month 8 of the relationship, she had stopped even pretending to be uncertain about it. "You'll finish mine, right?" she'd say, before the plates arrived, past the point of asking. The escalation wasn't dramatic. That's the part people don't expect when I tell this story. There was no single moment where it obviously became a problem. It crept. By spring of 2022, we were hitting a buffet almost every weekend, sometimes twice. The Golden Harbor, the Jade Palace, over on Henderson. A Brazilian churrascaria called Brasa that opened near the short north, where the servers came to the table with skewers, and Claire would say yes to everything and eat 2 bites of each. I ate what she left. I stopped running on Tuesdays because I was always tired. My clothes started feeling wrong around month 10, 11. I bought new pants in October 2022. Told myself I'd been stress eating. Work had been heavy. I'd get back on track. I gained 12 pounds in the first year, 13 more in the second. I want to be clear about something. I am not blaming Claire for my choices. I picked up the fork, I chewed and swallowed. I could have said no at any point, I know that. But there is a specific texture to the guilt she deployed in those moments, the slight frown, the we can't let it go to waste, the way she'd look at the plates and then back at me like I was the last line of defense between a moral failing and redemption, and I was not equipped to resist it. Then, I'd grown up in a household where wasting food was a serious offense. My mother talked about it constantly. Claire had found the exact frequency of that conditioning without knowing it existed. I tried, at various points, to change the pattern. Month 14, I suggested we try a regular restaurant instead of a buffet. Those are so expensive for what you get, she said. At least here we know it's worth it. I pointed out that she rarely finished what she took. She said she liked having options. I said maybe take less and go back if she wanted more. She looked at me like I'd suggested she commit a crime. That's not efficient, she said. Why make multiple trips? Month 18, I told her directly that I'd gained weight and the buffet routine wasn't working for me anymore. She said she was sorry to hear that, and she'd try to be more mindful. The next Saturday, we were at the Golden Harbor. She took 3 plates. Month 21, February of 2023. I went to my doctor for a routine physical, Dr. Renata Ose, same doctor I'd had for 6 years. She looked at my chart, looked at me, and asked what had changed. I sat in that paper-covered examination room and tried to explain the buffet thing, and even as I heard myself saying it, I understood how it sounded. She didn't laugh. She wrote some things down. Told me to be more deliberate about what I agreed to. I nodded like I understood what that meant. I tried one more time to talk to Claire about it in March. I laid it out carefully. The weight, the stomach aches, the way I dreaded Sunday mornings, which had become our primary buffet window. I was not angry. I was honest. She listened. Then she said, Marcus, I never force you to eat anything. You choose to finish the food. That was true. And it made me feel crazy. Because it was true and it also felt like a lie. Both things at once. She said she felt attacked. She said she didn't understand why I was making the food thing into a whole thing. She asked if something else was going on with me. Turned it around so gently I almost didn't notice it happening. By the end of the conversation, I was reassuring her that I wasn't upset, that I just wanted to communicate, that everything was fine. Everything was not fine. I want to tell you about the Sunday morning in April when I stood in front of my bathroom mirror before church. I go to Riverside Community Church on Broad Street. 10 o'clock service, and I did not recognize my own midsection, not in a dramatic way. In a quiet, factual way. The body in the mirror was not mine, or it was mine now. That was the thing. This was the body I lived in. 25 pounds heavier than the body I'd inhabited 3 years ago. And I had eaten my way into it, one buffet plate at a time, one we can't let it go to waste at a time, in a pattern so gradual I'd never had a single moment to object to. I drove to Golden Harbor that morning with a plan. I didn't announce it. I just decided. The moment at the table, Claire pointing at me, telling the server I was being difficult, the $32 landing on the check, that moment clarified something that had been forming for months. I wasn't angry in a hot way. I was cold. I was finally seeing the outline of something clearly. I said, quietly, that she was the one who had taken the food. I said I had gained 25 pounds being her cleanup solution. I said I hated the Buffetts, had hated them for a year and a half. I said the word garbage disposal, and I watched it land on her face. Then she said it. It's not my fault, you have no self-control. She said that, sitting behind 6 plates she couldn't finish. I looked at her for a moment. Then I laughed. Not a performance, just the involuntary release of 2 years of accumulated absurdity. The server had already walked away. Claire paid the $32 without speaking. Her face was red and tight the whole drive home. She dropped me at my apartment and pulled away before my door was fully closed. I sat on my couch and felt the familiar ache in my stomach, but this time I hadn't eaten anything I hadn't wanted. The ache was old food, old habit, the body's memory. For the first time, it felt like something other than defeat. The texts came that night. First, what were we doing next weekend? Second, there was a new Brazilian place she wanted to try. Third, a link to the menu, all you can eat. No mention of the $32, no mention of what I'd said, no mention of any of it, just here is the next buffet, here is the next Sunday. Here is the next mountain of food I will take and you will finish. I put my phone face down, went to sleep. 6 more messages by morning. Sweet, then confused, then frustrated, then, you're being immature, then, I can't believe you're making such a big deal out of nothing. I watched her cycle through every emotion in the space of 8 hours, except one, the right one. I typed a response 3 times, deleted it each time, finally sent 4 words, we need to talk. She replied instantly, what does that mean? I didn't answer. We met at a coffee shop 2 days later, Driftwood Coffee on 5th, neutral territory, good light, tables far enough apart that no one would overhear. I got there 15 minutes early, ordered a black coffee, picked the table in the back corner. Claire arrived 15 minutes late. She was wearing the blue wrap dress I'd told her once was my favorite. She was carrying a small gift bag. She slid it across the table when she sat down my favorite candy, Reese's in the big cup format, and a card with a painted sunset on the front. She said she felt bad about Sunday and wanted to make it up to me. I looked at the bag, then at her. I pushed it back. Claire, I said, I need you to understand something. Not accept it, understand it. I've gained 25 pounds in 2 years. I told you that on Sunday in front of a restaurant full of people, and your response was to text me a link to a new buffet. She opened her mouth. I kept going. I'm not here to fight. I'm here because I need to know if you actually heard me on Sunday. Any part of it. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said something I wasn't prepared for. I know about Dr. Osei. I went still. Your sister called me, she said. In February, after your physical. She said she was worried about you. She told me what the doctor said. My sister, Maya, who I'd mentioned the appointment to without thinking, who must have run into Claire at some point and said something she thought was helpful. So you knew, I said. I knew she was concerned. And you did nothing. I tried to be more aware. You took 3 plates the following Saturday. She looked at the table. There it was. The confirmation that she had known, had been told, had absorbed the information, and done nothing different. The February conversation in Dr. Osei's office. The moment I'd laid it out clearly, the following Saturday at the Golden Harbor, 3 plates. She had known and she had ordered anyway, and when I brought it up she had made me feel like I was attacking her. That was the thing that reordered everything, not cruelty, not malice, something quieter, and in some ways worse, I didn't matter enough to change for. The information had arrived, and nothing in her behavior had shifted, because nothing about my well-being required her to shift. She had taken the information in and sorted it somewhere below her preference for variety, for the ritual, for the specific pleasure of taking what she wanted and handing the consequences to someone else. I understood her then, fully, for the first time. I said what I needed to say quietly. No raised voice, no dramatics. Driftwood had 4 other occupied tables, and I was not interested in performing anything. I think we've been running a dynamic where your comfort costs me something, and I've been absorbing that cost without naming it, and now I'm naming it, 25 pounds. 2 years of stomach aches, a doctor visit in February that you knew about and didn't respond to. That's the ledger, Claire. That's what this is. She started to speak. I let her. She said she was sorry, that she hadn't understood the extent of it, that she thought I'd always been fine finishing the food because I'd never said otherwise. I said otherwise 18 months in, I said it again at 21 months. I said it to your face on Sunday. You know how you get when you're tired, she said. I thought you were just stressed. That sentence, the casualness of it, the way it just slipped out as a defense, as an explanation, and revealed the whole architecture underneath. When I'd been inconvenient, she'd filed it under Marcus being Marcus, not a real complaint, not something that required action, just a mood, a weather pattern to wait out. The woman at the table next to us glanced over. She'd heard that one. I nodded slowly. I don't think this is working, I said. Claire's eyes went wide. You're breaking up with me over buffets. I'm ending a relationship because I told you I was hurting, and you found ways to explain why that wasn't really true. The buffets are a detail. She tried to recover. The gift bag, the card. She said we could figure it out. Said she'd stop suggesting buffets entirely if that's what I wanted. Said she'd been selfish and she knew it. I believe that last part. I do think you know it, I said. I just think knowing it isn't the same as changing it, and I've been waiting 2 years for the second thing to happen. She started crying. Real tears, not performance. I want to be fair about that. Claire wasn't faking it. She was genuinely upset. And some part of me, a real and not small part, wanted to take it all back, wanted the wrap dress to matter enough, wanted the Reese's to be sufficient, wanted to have less to say. But I had 25 pounds of things to say, and I'd been quiet for 2 years. I left the gift bag on the table, paid for my coffee, walked out into the gray Ohio morning and stood on the sidewalk for a minute, not quite ready to move. The next 2 weeks were complicated. Claire called 4 times the first night, twice the next morning. She texted so frequently my phone felt like it was flinching. Most of it was pain, genuine pain, rearranged into anger, and then back to pain. I thought we were happy. I can't believe this is how it ends. You could have talked to me earlier. That last one stung in the particular way that true but unfair things sting. She called Dennis, my co-worker, the person responsible for us meeting, and told him her version. Dennis came to find me at work on a Thursday, visibly uncomfortable. He said he didn't want to get in the middle of it, but that Claire was really struggling, and he just thought I should know. I thanked him, told him I was sorry she was struggling, didn't add anything else. Dennis is a good guy. He was trying to be decent to both of us. I didn't hold it against him. Maya, my sister who had set the February domino falling with that phone call, called me crying on day 4. She'd talked to Claire, who had apparently given her a version of events that cast me as someone who had snapped at her in public and then vanished. Maya said, she said you humiliated her at a restaurant. I told Maya the full version, the 25 pounds, the February appointment. The fact that Claire had known and then texted me a buffet menu 12 hours later. Maya went quiet for a long time. Then she said, Marcus, I'm so sorry I called her. I told her not to be. In a way, That phone call had given me the one piece of information I'd needed, the confirmation that Claire had known and not changed. Without Maya, I might have spent another 6 months second-guessing myself. The grief came later, and it came quieter than I expected, not during the calls or the drama of those 2 weeks. It came on a Sunday, maybe 3 weeks after the coffee shop, when I woke up and there was no plan, no buffet, no texts from Claire suggesting somewhere new, just a Sunday morning with empty space in it. I made eggs, ate exactly as much as I wanted, looked at the empty plate and felt something I didn't immediately have a word for. Sad, that's the word, sad, specifically for the version of the relationship I had believed in during those first 3 months. The funny woman at the birthday party, the long drives, the way she made eye contact when she talked to you. That person had been real, at least some of the time, and I had loved being in a room with her. Losing something real, even when leaving it is right, there's a particular weight to that. I've learned not to pretend that weight isn't there. Claire made one final move about a month later. She sent an email, formal, which surprised me, suggesting that she'd been seeing a therapist and had gained some clarity on the dynamic. She said she understood now that she'd been using food as a control mechanism, that she'd grown up in a house where meals were chaotic, and taking more than you needed was a kind of protection. She said she thought what we'd had was worth fighting for, and she wanted to try again with new terms. It was the most self-aware thing she'd ever communicated to me. I read it 3 times. Then I wrote back and said I was glad she was working on it, that I meant that sincerely, and that I hoped the work continued regardless of what happened between us, and I told her I wouldn't be coming back. I wasn't cold about it. I wasn't righteous. I just knew it was over, and I wasn't going to perform uncertainty I didn't feel. I'm 31 years old. I'm down 18 of the 25 pounds. I didn't do anything dramatic. I just ate what I wanted, when I was hungry, and stopped when I was full. It turns out that's not as complicated as it sounds when no one is sliding plates at you. I run on Tuesday and Thursday mornings again. The route is the same one from before. Sometimes it feels like muscle memory. Sometimes it feels like reclaiming something. Dr. Osei noted the change at my last physical in March. She didn't make a big deal of it. She said, "Whatever you changed, keep it." I told her I'd simplified things. She nodded like she'd heard that answer before and knew what it usually meant. My relationship with Maya is fine. Better, actually, because we talked through things honestly. Dennis and I still work together. It's not awkward. He had the good sense to stay neutral, and I respected him for it. Here's what I know now that I didn't understand at 28. The accumulation of small tolerances is where the damage happens, not the single bad moment, not the dramatic blow-up, the repeated small choice to absorb someone else's discomfort instead of naming your own. That is the mechanism. 25 times a week, you absorb a little. Over 2 years, you are a different body standing in front of a different mirror. And the accumulation has no single guilty moment. That's what makes it hard to name. That's what lets it continue. I didn't gain 25 pounds because Claire was a monster. She wasn't. She was someone running a pattern that worked for her, that she had never had to examine, because no one had ever made it uncomfortable enough to examine, including me, for 2 years, until I didn't. And the title of my own story is still the strangest part. I gained 25 pounds, over 2 years, slowly, weekly, 1 plate at a time. And she didn't notice, not because she was oblivious, but because noticing would have required accounting for my experience, and she had never quite gotten around to making that a habit. I hope she does, with whoever comes next. I think about that sometimes, standing in my kitchen on a Sunday morning, eating exactly as much as I want, in the quiet of a day with nothing decided for me yet. The absence of something used to feel like loss. Now it mostly feels like space. That's enough. For now, that's more than enough.